The New World Order.
Those are the roots of trouble.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice, tumbling down the rabbit hole. Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of election, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. But I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
And now, welcome to another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole. Here's your host from federaljack.com. It's Popeye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another live edition. It's July 9th, 2014. Back live tonight. I took last night off. I had a few personal things I had to take care of, but the rest of the week I will be live, and I have an amazing lineup of shows for you. Tonight, I have two good friends of the broadcast, two radio show hosts that are in hiatus right now, I'll say, and all-around excellent researchers and very good friends of mine, Aaron Dykes and Melissa Melton. So let me welcome them both to the broadcast. Welcome back, guys.
Hey, thanks for having us. He just now ran out of the room at this moment because there was something going off in the other room he had to turn off. Because with such a great introduction, he just couldn't handle it and had to leave.
I made him break down in tears. He was so overwhelmed with emotion.
Get in here.
I'm glad the two of you had some free time to come on tonight, really. I missed hanging out with you guys and picking your brains.
I missed you too. We missed you too. It's been really crazy for us the last couple of months. We're just trying to get everything together. And
hi there.
Hello. Hi.
Hi, Aaron.
Sorry about that impeccable timing, but I don't know. Tea kettles wait for no one.
Yeah.
Just keep making horrible sounds.
Yeah, and that would be horrible in the background hearing wee. So yeah, I guess it's good that you ran away. Anyway, I was telling Melissa it's good that I've got you guys back on again. It's been far too long since the two of you were on, and there's just the level of insanity. I mean, things seem to be ramping up every day more and more and more.
I can't even keep up with it anymore. I mean, we've been trying just to get back in the swing of everything because we've had a lot of life changes recently, and it's hard to even turn on. The other day, I got so overwhelmed, I just had to leave my office. I just couldn't even look at it anymore. The news, the way that things are unfolding, they're ramping everything up to a level that's a fever pitch. I don't know. I'm so glad I don't have the 24-hour news cycle running through my television set because I would probably have an aneurysm. I wouldn't be able to handle it. I would just break down and
they're natural, just spontaneous events, of course, but unfortunately, it's the most dangerous time in history to be a child during the Obama administration. I mean, look at Sandy Hook, look at the border crisis. You could end up dead or, abandoned at a border somewhere just because Obama's in office. It's not because of an agenda or anything.
That's right. It's all about the children. Obama's entire presidency is all about the children.
This whole illegal immigration thing, is a huge. Well, the whole for the children thing is an appeal to emotion. It's a logical fallacy, and I bring this up. I bring this up so many times now that the guys on Hangar 18 on the weekends on our Saturday show, we've created a drinking game out of it. So every time I say logical fallacy or I name one, everybody in the audience has to take a shot or a drink of whatever alcoholic beverage they have.
We're invited on the next Hangar 18, I've heard. So
yes,
we'll see about that.
You might get a chance to hear Aaron and Melissa Unleashed.
Oh gosh!
Tune in on Saturday.
Hey, I'm not gonna lie. I already had a glass of wine before I got here tonight. So
logical fallacy
I had to,
is just the domain of Alice in Wonderland, but somehow also this weird reality we're living in. And if the Queen of Hearts gets elected off, I'm just freaked out. I mean, I saw this Time magazine thing about Hillary over the weekend, and talk about off with your head. I mean, there's one bitch you don't.
They're actually trying to say she's a Washington outsider who's going to change things. I mean, who even listens to our media anymore?
Did you notice that the media is just even with this rape case that she covered, where the audio is her cackling, just like
that made me want to get. I wrote about that.
But they're letting her off. Oh well, that's just lawyer talk between lawyers. Really? She says that she knew her client was lying and he passed the test anyway. So she helped a rapist that raped a 12-year-old girl.
Hillary Clinton, she slut-shamed a 12-year-old rape victim. That's what Hillary Clinton did in that case. What she did was she knew she was going to be able to get that guy off on a technicality because it was a chain of custody situation with the evidence, which was, by the way, his blood-soaked, semen-soaked underwear. And she knew that chain of custody break was going to get him off on a technicality anyway. But even knowing that, she went above and beyond that to put in an affidavit and try to paint a 12-year-old rape victim as a slut. That is what Hillary Clinton will do to win.
If I'm not mistaken, didn't chain of custody refer to someone cutting out a physical square of the specimen of underwear that was the evidence?
Yeah, not returning it properly.
That's how she got it.
She got him off on that.
They cut the piece out to test it. The piece of the dress that they cut out, the little square that they cut out to test. Well, when they're done testing it, quite often the techs will just dispose of it. And she said, well, I want to see that evidence. I want to be able to see that piece that they cut out and tested. My client has a right to see it, and they couldn't produce it.
Yeah, exactly.
So the rape victim got victimized again because of that.
And that woman's
well done, exactly.
And that's the thing. She knew she was going to get him off of this case based on that, but then she went above and beyond to swear in affidavits that she wrote herself about how this girl was basically a slut, and knowing that she was already going to win it, so she went above and beyond for the extra A++. For what? What is the ultimate goal? To win? To get a rapist off who was supposed to get 30 years to life, and instead he got to plea down to less than a year so he can go back into society? That's who we want as president? I don't know. I just got in filming a whole video right before I came on your show that I'm going to edit and put up later. But it's all about these freaking...
As a woman, she's for women's rights. Don't you put all that aside? It's the first woman president. Don't you think that...
Just because Hillary Clinton has a vagina and 30 years of experience wearing pantsuits does not mean that we should put her into the presidency. This is insane that anyone... We drive around... We don't live in Austin anymore, yay! But we drive around there sometimes, and there are just bumper stickers everywhere, rampant of people who have put bumper stickers on their car, ready for Hillary 2016.
I'm ready for Hillary, right?
And I'm like, I think I should probably follow this person around in my car because I need to make sure they're not going to drive their car off a cliff because obviously they're suicidal and psychotic if they're willing to put that on their car.
The one that's even worse, makes me want to just vomit all over the place, is the Hillary Michelle 2016 bumper stickers.
Are you serious?
Swear to God, I've seen them down here in Florida. Hillary Michelle 2016.
The hell's Michelle gonna do?
Well, she can't. She really can't run because she's not. Is it possible for her to run even as vice president if she hasn't ever held a political office ever? Being first lady does not make you entitled to be a...
What possibly could be vetting Clinton? What possibly could make her be someone that we should ever want to... I don't even want her to be vetted as a janitor at Capitol Hill. let alone go anywhere. Why would anyone, even if she's never done anything wrong, nothing but scandal and unethical issues have followed this woman her entire adult life.
Right, but
the burden of evidence is enough to say, do not put her anywhere near any kind of power. And people are just like, oh, it must be Hillary. We have to have her. Why?
Because it's the first female president. And see, that's where, again.
So we got to get like the most manliest, scary woman ever to be.
Well, it's
oh my God!
They play to people's emotions. They played. I actually did a show about
the
this
emotion of stupidity. I don't think that's an emotion.
No, they're playing to women. just like with Obama.
I mean, that just makes women sound bad, though.
Same thing.
If the Virgin Mary and Mother Teresa were combined into one and they were the first lady, I still think they should be disqualified from running for president if their husband's been president. I mean, it's a horrible dynasty move.
Well, you see, she was the first lady, and then she couldn't run. Everybody was like, "Oh, Hillary should run for office," but she didn't really have anything to run on, right? So then she had to sneak her way in. She became a senator, and then she left there, and then she worked for the Obama administration, and she wanted to be president once before already. And I mean, who didn't know that they were going to? Everybody's like, "Well, we're still not sure if Hillary's even going to run." Right? Really, you don't think she's running? The news media talks about her. They give her a pass on everything.
Oh, total pass. It's like a golden magical media carpet of just how amazing and illustrious she's just. McCain the other day slipped up on air and called her President Clinton. McCain. So there you go. I mean, it gives all kinds of credence to the idea that presidents are no longer elected, they're selected.
To me, what I see is them prepping the field, and people will say, well, they're prepping the field for her to run. No, I see them prepping the field not only for her to run, but because she's been selected as the next idiot in charge, and that's who they're going to put in there. See, it doesn't matter if she's a Democrat. This is above the Democrat-Republican thing, because it's just like with Obama. Even if he was, I'm willing to bet, even if he wasn't an uber liberal, even if he ran as an independent, he probably would have got in, or Republican, because they ran under the premise that he would have been the first black president. Right? So it's an appeal to emotion, get everybody to vote for him, not because don't look at his policies, don't look at his politics, don't look who he's connected to, don't look what what he's actually going to do with the country when he has his hands on the controls. No, let's vote for him because he's black. It's an appeal to emotion. It's the same thing they're doing with women now. Because she's got boobs and a vagina, you need to vote for her. That's basically the premise of what you're being told. And if you don't vote for her and you don't agree with her, you're sexist.
I'm just so horrified, but she's behind the murder, basically the murder of our ambassador in Libya. They knew about that with the unclassified cables for over a year. He was sending her direct messages to her saying, please help us. We are going to die. Even a week before, with the red level maximum alert addressed directly to her. And her thing later was, well, that was, that didn't come across my desk. That was someone in the security department. And those people died. He was beaten and raped and murdered. And that did. And then $6 billion went missing. But, those invoices, those didn't come across my desk. Well, what the hell came across her desk while she was Secretary of State? Apparently nothing important.
A lot of money.
That's how she ran just that. So we're now going to say, but because she's a woman, make her president. It's horrifying. The only thing you need to know about Hillary Clinton, the only thing anyone needs to know is that video that you have up on one of your channels, actually, Popeye, which is only about 7 seconds long, and it's her cackling with sheer glee after Gaddafi was lynched. She just is oozing. I don't even think she knew that the camera was on, and she's just oozing sheer joy at the thought of someone being lynched. I don't care who's being lynched or why. I don't care if it was somebody that personally tried to murder me and my children. I still, as a human being, I cannot think of another person, no matter who they are and what they've done, being lynched and murdered in a street and find it within myself and my human parts to laugh and cackle with sheer glee. If anything, that one moment, that one 7 seconds or whatever, shows the psychotic evilness that makes up that woman. You don't need to know anything else she's done, nothing else she says, nothing else she ever does. That 6 seconds is her. That is who she is, and that's the person that people are now like falling all over themselves to just hand over the reins to. We should just come out and admit right now that the American government is a front for mega corporations. It's a global cabal. It's evil and horrifying and corrupt. Because then, if you admit that, then it's okay to put her there. Because then that's where she belongs. But if we're going to go ahead and try to pretend still that this is, we got the Constitution and everything, then I don't see how anyone can even see that and pass that up and think it's okay to have her in there. It's horrifying.
Well said.
We took a road trip, Popeye. You might be interested. And this is a little hint because the piece hasn't come out yet. But we stopped off in Hope, Arkansas, which is, of course, famous for Bill Clinton's birthplace. And it's very easy to find Bill Clinton's little childhood home and all the propaganda and signs all around the town. But what wasn't quite as easy to find, that we had to really dig through a lot of web pages to find, is someone's gravesite there. Vince Foster, the other guy from Hope, Arkansas.
I was going to say, let me guess, Vince.
Yeah. So there's another dark avenue for Hillary, Rose Welfare.
If you go on YouTube and type in, or even on go to federaljack.com, up in the search bar, type in Clinton's list of dead friends, and it should bring it up. There's a video. I read the names, and this video is old. Okay, I read the names in the video alone. It took me 2 segments on air to do it, to read the names and how they died. Like these, and I mean, some of these people, they were like found decapitated, and the coroner ruled it natural causes. Because your head just naturally just flies right off, in a severed manner. It just always happens. It always looks like it was just chopped right off. I mean, I saw it last week. Some guy was walking down the street and his head just flew right off. I was like, holy crap.
It was right after he put the "Ready for Hillary" bumper sticker on it.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, and that's the thing. People, she's trying to distance herself now from Obama with all the stuff that's going on right now, too. And it's hilarious because if anyone has been a poster woman for NAFTA and CAFTA and all of the things that have led us to this planned crisis that we're having now on the border, it's that woman who sat on the board of Walmart and is behind that huge influx of cheap Chinese goods that happened after Sam Walton died. I mean, she's part of that even. I mean, she's just, look into almost anything now. It's kind of like the Rockefeller Foundation. Anytime I'm researching something horrible, I always try to I go for the top few people that I know are probably connected in some way. Rockefeller Foundation, Bill Gates. But Hillary Clinton's getting to the part where she's going to be on that list too. Anytime something happens, it's like, I wonder if the Clintons are involved in it.
I think if you look up evil in the dictionary, you'll see a picture of Hillary Clinton smiling with flames, behind her as the backdrop, because she's probably in her native hell.
I mean, and the fact that, and they even did that whole thing where they went down to the DNC and they tried to get her supporters to say one thing she's done, and no one could think of anything that she's done. No one can list one accomplishment she's had because it's quite obvious. Their brains have been, like, they have a flip top head, like in those old Oral-B toothbrush commercials, and their brains have been taken out and a television set has just been placed in the cavity where the brain used to be. And so all the logical thinking mechanisms are just disappeared. There's no critical thought whatsoever. Can't even come up with a reason, but they just know, by gosh, they're ready. They're just ready to go ahead and announce it to the world, driving around town with a bumper sticker on their car to let everyone else know.
This is what they're ready for. This is what they're ready for, Melissa. This is the audio clip that you're referring to, the 12 seconds of who Hillary Clinton really is. This is what Ready for Hillary 2016 means to me.
So, I mean, that is the land of unconfirmed.
Yes, we came, we saw, he died.
Did it have anything to do with your visit?
I'm sure.
People getting lynched is funny.
Yeah, and by the way, what they actually did to Gaddafi was he was supposed to meet with her. They had fooled him into thinking that he was going to come out and be picked up, and then, because he was the leader of the country, just like you're supposed to. Okay, you're not supposed to assassinate leaders of heads of state.
No, it was a war crime.
Right. So they lured him out into the desert, and while he was driving out, they hit him with a freaking drone. They drone struck them. And then they hit him with a Hellfire missile from a friggin' drone. And then whatever was left, they let the rebels come in. And then you saw what they did to him. Now, is that how we deal with heads of state? I don't care if the guy was Hitler or Joseph Stalin. That's not how you're supposed to deal with heads of state. You're not. Would we be okay if another country lured our president out into the middle of some place and they hit him with the drone, and then they went and did that to our president? Well, no, we'd be pissed off, Popeye. That ain't right. Oh, but because the shoe's on the other foot, it's okay, right?
Well, and there's nothing more that you even have to do than to look at the devastation that's going on in Ukraine right now to see that clearly all of the pretext for why we even went to Libya is a bunch of bullshit anyway. Because obviously they don't care about how any of these people are treating their people, because look at what the stooge, the billionaire globalist stooge we put in the Ukraine. He's over there bombing people that don't support him, basically. And that's fine. We're fine with that. We're going to go ahead and basically announce that we're okay with it, let that continue, not do a damn thing. We don't care. We're going to go into Libya, however. What was one of the reasons why? They didn't have a central bank, right? That was one of the reasons. Yeah, I know for sure. Because then we went and got all of his gold, didn't we?
They had too much of their own wealth.
So, I mean, they didn't like that at all.
And he was giving it back to the people. A lot of people can bash Gaddafi. Yeah, I'm sure he had torture chambers and things like that, but he didn't just round up citizens willy-nilly and torture them. And you know, nothing for nothing, he gets blamed for the Pan Am Flight 103 bombing. I've gone over this 100 times. Gaddafi wasn't responsible for Pan Am Flight 103. And even if he was via funding, it still doesn't give us the right to go and invade his country and bomb the hell out of it. It's that, I mean, that's literally like, you know, your neighbor steals your newspaper from your front porch. So you go and literally dynamite his house and blow it to high hell, and there's nothing left of it. You know what I mean? I mean, just the level of response is just, well, we have to be overwhelming. We're the United States. We have every answer is a hammer, so every problem must be a freaking nail.
Well, I mean, if anybody looks at the list of things that our CIA has done over the decades, I guess there's reasons for people to bomb the crap out of us too. I mean, we can't just pick and choose how we're going to, it's so obviously all fake. And we were funding the Al-Qaeda the rebels. We were funding the same Al-Qaeda that we here in America have to give up all our rights for since 9/11. We got to go to the airport and get molested and radiated and be treated like criminals. If, you know, I had a friend who she was traveling through Chicago and she stopped to take a picture of a window in Chicago Metro because she thought the glass, the way it was arranged, looked pretty. And some cop or whoever was, TSA, stopped her and was like, "That, you know, you can't take pictures in here. This is a transportation hub." You know, we have to live like that now because of the Al-Qaeda. But our State Department can fund the crap out of them in other countries, and that's totally fine. Actually, I think Egypt just got done, the new power in Egypt just got done putting out charges against Obama and Hillary both, because of their funding of the Muslim Brotherhood. So that's our government. That's Hillary Clinton.
I guess
I'm ready.
I guess they won't be going to see the pyramids anytime soon.
I mean, they've charged them with conspiring with terrorists. So there you go.
I mean, the real Arab Spring had so many undercurrents. It was all about sowing seeds of chaos like you're baking a cake. I mean, Mubarak supposedly had a heart attack conveniently right after he was pushed out of the country. Ben Ali in Tunisia supposedly had a stroke immediately after he was removed from power, then sentenced to life in prison and abstention, never came back. They were just putting new chaotic people in power. Look what happened in Egypt. Maybe it didn't happen in Tunisia, but it's all this chessboard game that still has Iran hanging in the balance. But even more is about their splitting things off into new small countries with all these different tribes of Sunni, Shiite. I mean, you know how complicated this stuff is. It's never for the reasons we're told.
Oh, come on. Come on. They're funding Al-Qaeda because they have to. If they don't fund Al-Qaeda, then they're not going to have an excuse to clamp down on us. So they have to, Aaron. You have to understand that. Just live in this Orwellian, twisted, bizarro world that we live in, and eat your cornflakes and your nice GMO food, and shut up and go watch Dancing with the Stars and stop complaining. Damn it, you're American.
I feel like somebody has put Hoffman sunglasses permanently on my face in a way that it's speeding up time or something, because it seems to me like the lies and the amount of just fake spin bullshit that's happening is just more and more and more and more and faster and faster and faster. That, I mean, when we had to go out of town, I had to go to a funeral recently, and everyone was doing was sitting around on the couch watching Fox News, because it's a funeral. It's not like you're going to hang out and have a good time. And they just had it on in the background, and so I was just absentmindedly watching it, and I thought, how can people even watch this anymore? I mean, I think it was like the 5 at 5. I don't know. I don't follow all these shows on this channel, but they're up there talking about how one of the guys was like, yes, I'm emasculated because my wife has to make me take my shoes off when I come in the house because I'll get the carpet dirty. Meanwhile, there's a ticker running along the bottom that's like, worst Ebola outbreak ever, 300 people are dead. And it's like, this guy's talking about taking his shoes off when he comes into the house. It's just like the disconnection there from humanity is just so in your face.
Because it's all entertainment. That's all that crap is entertainment. All of it. They're in a studio putting on a show, and half the time the idiots in the show don't even realize that it's just a show. It's a live action play for the idiots watching it on the box. Because on the box, it comes out differently. If you were standing in the studio and watched it being made, it would look completely different, and you'd have a whole different take on it. I mean, I've seen films being made. I've seen the inside of some TV studios. I've seen things, being broadcast live. It looks completely different. You realize how much of a live action play it actually is. If you imagine it like doing a Broadway play and how they move the sets around, they'll close the curtain or the lights will go dim and they'll move the sets around and the lights will come back on and there'll be a new background. That's pretty much what watching the mainstream media is. It's like watching a live action play. I'm going to cut us off though, because I can tell that in about 10 seconds, the break is going to start to sneak in here and cut us off. So I will pause us. Don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. Deep intellectual conversations. Don't worry, we'll get back to the illegal immigration thing. We just decided
we're getting there.
Yeah, we had to bash Hillary Clinton first because she's horrible and evil. Just look up evil in the dictionary, ladies and gentlemen. It'll say, see Hillary Clinton. Stay tuned, we'll be right back. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. I want to stay on the topic of Hillary Clinton for a few minutes because it's valid because she's being pushed in your face right now. I will say, did you notice her publicist shut that book tour down? Because it was just like one gaffe after another.
It was pathetic. Hey, they were really broke. They know what being really broke is like.
Oh, I was waiting for that.
Right? It's so
I'm down. We were down and out when we got out of the White House. Wait, what?
The kind of broke that you get when you're so broke, you just have to borrow $1 million from your governor friend to buy your second mansion. I hate when I'm that broke.
Is that when, maybe that's why they were trying to sell off certain things when Hillary was in the White House, right? Maybe that's why she was trying to sell off things so she could get herself out of debt. I mean, really?
When they left, they took $200,000, worth of China and flatware and rugs and TVs and all kinds of stuff out of the White House, like in a super ghetto fashion. But even before that, Aaron was reminding me that Bill Clinton used to host people and basically sell off the Lincoln bedroom to contributors and celebrities. It's like if there were eBay for the White House or something, then when they left, they took all the furniture.
Mainly to the Chinese. I mean, today we know that financially and whatnot, we're under the yoke of the Chinese. It didn't happen quite overnight. First, they had to sell them the nuclear secrets. They had to wine and dine them in the Lincoln bedroom and exchange, ladies of the night and whatnot. It's
isn't it interesting? Talk about a setup, though. These people sell them the nuke secrets back in the 90s, right, to China. And now China is emerging as a global superpower. A rival of ours, of what was once just the United States' territory for a long time, right? And China, you look at it, and if you understand like this whole thing in Iraq, dividing Iraq and breaking up Iraq and causing issues there, that causes actually a lot. That causes damage to China in the long run. So this whole thing I see is like a long the end game is like setting up World War III with like Russia, China, Iran versus and perhaps whatever Middle Eastern states might join in there, whatever, versus like Europe, the United States. Well, Mexico's out because they're just a third world banana republic, and whoever else joins in, it's going to be like a fracas. And I mean, this is long term thinking. But if you think about it, we gave them the nuke technology back in the 90s. I mean, Clinton sold it. So, like, talk about the long game. Talk about thinking about the long con.
Well, yeah, and look at your bumper music. Go ask Alice, what the doorman said, and the one makes you taller and the one makes you shorter. It's all backwards land. It's all crazy, this foreign policy. You start to understand when you look at their statements, things like Hillary Clinton talking about the Council on Foreign Relations, telling her what to do, giving her the inside secrets over there. Everything they do, especially in foreign policy, is so destructive to actual American interests, and yet they're the ones on top representing, waving to the flag and putting your hand over your heart and getting indoctrinated through grade school and everything else, while they're undermining at every turn, putting Al-Qaeda into power, making secret deals with China, giving away secrets, all those bankers bankrolling Soviet Russia from the very beginning, being right behind the Bolshevik Revolution, and then carrying out business on every industrial front. Personally, David Rockefeller and other billionaires the whole time through the Cold War, and using that as a pretext to control the populations by fear, casting this whole narrative that leads to waging proxy wars throughout Asia, Africa, Latin America. That leads to destroying Central America and most of South America, taking out leaders, creating coups and revolutions, destabilizations, complete economic turmoil. Those workers end up on our doorstep, wanting into our country, wanting our low-wage jobs. It's all some NAFTA-SHAFTA scam deal. Everything is so backwards until you realize it's through the looking glass backwards, and then you've got to turn it upside down and look at it in the most bizarre way for it to make any sense.
It's the best way to put it. It really is. It's like black is white, white is black, and it really isn't this black and white area. That it's actually the black and white margins are very small, and the gray area is extremely large.
So basically,
like people think everything is so simple. No, it's not as easy as you think. It's not as cut and dry as Democrat, Republican, they did this. That comes from everybody being presented with the faux illusion, or the illusion itself of choice, A or B. There's actually more choices, but they only give you choice A or B, and both are controlled. So it doesn't matter if they control both outcomes, and it's both leading to the same agenda, right? I just saw a poll the other day. People were like, we'd be better off if we voted for Romney. No, we wouldn't. Are you retarded? Are you stupid? We'd have the same problems. It would just be with Romney's face. And it would actually be worse, because then it would be, you'd have the conservatives, the people that voted for him, all thinking, oh, our guy's in, things are going to change. And they'd be doing the same thing the Obama supporters do. And if you out there, the conservatives, that, the people that are like, well, I'm still going to vote for a Republican no matter what, blah, blah, blah. But you people are part of the problem, because you know what's going to happen? You'll put him in office, and then you'll see Fox News going from attacking the president to being MSNBC, and then MSNBC will go to being Fox News and attacking the presidency, just like they did when Bush was in office.
Exactly.
They switched. They just reverse roles. That's it. And CNN remains the same. They try to be they would attack the conservatives more than they do, because they are liberal, but they take that faux middle of the road stance. We're on the middle of the road. Right, CNN. Right. You guys, in fact, their programming is so inadequate and horrible. Their best show on CNN is Anthony Bourdain's cooking show on the weekend. Okay, I'm not kidding you. It's the best show, the highest ratings on that network.
That's because people have vertigo. They have vertigo from watching that channel, and then when they finally get to that show and everything slows down for 2 seconds and they're able to breathe, they're like, I'll stay here for a minute. The rest of the time, these people have been probably whipped up into such a mental frenzy-like state. They're probably rapidly switching back between CNN and MSNBC and Fox and Headline News and C-SPAN. And well, not C-SPAN, because no one actually watches C-SPAN, but they should. But seriously, though, it's just, I don't even know. We watched it for a couple of days because we were out in the middle of nowhere with no internet access, and it was enough to give me a permanent migraine. I don't understand. Everything... it seems like things are speeding up, and maybe that's just my perception, but it really feels like every day now it's some new horrible crisis thing. If it's not what's going on in the Ukraine, it's what's going on in Iraq. If it's not Iraq, it's what's going on our border. Or it's the fact that at the northern border, the UN is going to intervene with Detroit because of water, and Detroit's going bankrupt. And there's the whatever weather thing that's happening in the somewhere. And I mean, it's just every moment there's something. Now, in the IRS with the dog ate our hard drives, but it doesn't matter because emails are on servers, but you should trust us to run your healthcare system. I mean, I don't know how anyone would keep up with this.
But, I remember before the Iraq war started, they were talking about splitting Iraq into 3 countries, Kurdistan and then the 2 different parts of Iraq for Sunni and Shia. Now it's happening, and we wonder how we got there after they spent years putting Al-Qaeda into power on purpose, cutting deals publicly with the Muslim Brotherhood and so forth. It's just crazy, except it's not, Yep.
And now Time is just, they're openly reporting that that's what they're going to do. They're going to split it into 3 chunks, and that's how it is. And everyone's like, I can't believe it. Even though, obviously, if anyone has been paying any attention at all, it's like no one ever. It's almost like there's a mental reset that happens, especially with people watching television. And maybe it's just because they get so hyper-focused on something for one moment, and then they switch it on them. And so everything's just constantly being switched on these people, and maybe it just malfunctions something in their brain that disallows critical thinking skills. I don't know. Because before one thing can settle fully into the collective consciousness of America, as they try to do with this 24-hour news cycle, they switch it on them, and they put some new thing.
Well, because they change the focus, and the attention span is kept short that way. But at the same time, they're bombarding you with all these different things. To the country itself, it's like death by 1,000 cuts. But also to the general public, it helps with the fear, because they put out a couple days, fear for fear, 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 next, fear for fear, 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 next, fear for fear, fear. I mean, Hurricane Arthur. You should down here, people were flipping out, and I'm like, really? Really, guys, this is called summer in Florida. Everybody needs to relax. It's a tropical storm. It's going to rain for a couple days, and whoosh, go north. It's going to hit Florida like a high-lie scoop, go up north, and if it hits North Carolina, it may be a Category 1. Everybody needs to calm down. But before Hurricane Katrina, they didn't barely cover them. They wouldn't give them a lot of attention. After Hurricane Katrina, they realized the news value. And now, every time a storm hits or is going to hit, it could be a tropical depression, which is even less powerful than a tropical storm. And they'll be like, oh my God, it's tropical depression death. Dun, dun, dun. They'll have graphics flying up on the screen. Fox News will spend an hour talking about it. I'm sure CNN will spend 6 months talking about it.
I will never forget that. I think it was CNN... Hurricane Irene or whatever it was the one that was before Sandy that wasn't really all that big of a deal. And there was the guy on CNN with the red, weather slicker thing, and he was out in the middle of the street in the rain. He's like, it's coming down here. I can barely stand up. I get, and in the background there's like kids playing in the water. He doesn't realize they're there, but he's trying to make it seem as though he's being blown down the road and he's going to die horribly live on TV while little kids are in the background splashing around. Yay.
Now, here's the point I want to raise. With Bush, he had 9/11, which supposedly no one saw coming. The Iraq War, which even they more or less concede, we all know was pre-planned from before the administration. Afghanistan. There was the North American Union, but that was not a media event. That's an agenda point for the background, not supposed to happen. And, of course, there's Katrina, which was supposed to be a natural disaster. No one saw it coming, right? Obama, everything they saw coming except the financial crisis, which was supposedly by accident. Obama conveniently did everything the bankers asked for. The 3 things he did plan to tackle in his administration, the big things, were Obamacare, gun control, and immigration. And we've been right through them like a list, just like they planned. And this was the part of Obama's second term where he's supposed to get to immigration reform, amnesty. It's always been about amnesty. So why are we now seeing a big flagrant clash over border security, immigration, amnesty, when what if they did it quietly? What if they were like, we're here to report illegal immigration is down. We've got things under control. Thanks to Big Sis and all her great efforts, the border's now more secure. Even her opponents have to admit blah, blah, blah. And so now we're ready for immigration. No. For some reason, somebody wants a big clash over this, and it seems like the more flagrant, the bigger and better it is. And I just have to wonder why, because it seems like they're leading to something else besides just the amnesty situation. By bringing in all these people that they pre-plan, all the Central American kids that they apparently pre-plan to escort from the border.
Well, imagine the possibilities. And, look at the disease factor alone, right? People are saying, well, if they're sick, these kids need help. We can't just let the kids go, blah, blah, blah. Well, these sick people coming in, they're not even, if they were being, it would be one thing if they were being, treated right there in quarantine zones at the border and slowly processed or something, but that's not what's going on. They're just bussing them in and shipping them out. So you're going to see a rise of disease in this country again. At least this is, on this aspect, this is why I see that they would let that happen. You're going to see a rise of disease in this country, and then you're going to see a call for, we need vaccines because the unvaccinated kids are the ones that are causing all these problems because it's the kids getting sick. And they won't bother to mention all these undocumented, illegal, whatever you want to call, illegal immigrant kids that they're bussing in. They won't mention that. And then you'll have the outbreaks, and then you'll have reasons to, scare people with the outbreak. Everything, even if it's a branch off something else, becomes its own thing, and then that shoots branches off.
That's
of it.
what I'm talking about. It's this Hegelian thing that I start to see a little bit better the longer I observe this stuff, and I've already been observing it a pretty long time. But you would think if your only objective was to reform immigration and get all these people in, you'd want to do it bureaucratically, smoothly, under the wire as you could, like they did to the North American Union. That wasn't debated on the media. You didn't have a bunch of people saying, this is the destruction of America, I'm so mad, I don't want this, this president needs to be impeached. No, it didn't even make the news. They quietly signed it. The few places it did make the media, it was just matter of fact. The immigration thing, they've deliberately picked a fight as if they want to use that fear to cultivate this byproduct of having patriots confront the feds, oppose these buses, show up on the border with weapons. You know what I'm saying? I have to ask why.
Well, that's what I'm saying. There's more to it. They never benefit one way. They don't do something just for one purpose. That's not how they roll. If they're going to put this much time, effort, and energy and money into it, they're going to benefit on a multitude of ways. So, you can look at this and just break it down and be like, wow, this is bad in so many ways. Very, very bad. Even if you look at it, from a political stance, if they allow 2-3 million new people into the country and they're all illegals, well, it's the Democrats, quote unquote, allowing them in. They come from a socialist, communist area and countries, so they're used to that kind of ideology already. And then you try, you'll see a candidate up there that maybe you get a good candidate and he's got a somewhat of a chance in an area, and anybody look at where they want to bust the illegals to? Did anybody think about maybe why they want to bust them to that area? And why they want to dump them off in certain spots? Because perhaps they know they'll eventually integrate into the general populace. Not all of them are going to leave and disappear, and I'm guarantee you most of them are not going to show up for court. So and if they get amnesty, then they become legal, then they'll come out of the woodwork, and it'll be the Democrats that gave them amnesty, and you'll have generations of people that'll vote Democrat, just like the Democrats hijacked. I
don't know. It's not over, though, because Jeb Bush has said it's an act of love to come here illegally. And they've been planning since the birth of his son, George P. Bush, for the day of a Hispanic Republican candidate who can effectively win people over.
Hispanic Bush.
Well, you see, that's dangerous, too.
They've seen this coming for literally a generation.
You think that's why they created? Do you think that's literally why that kid, why they procreated?
Yeah, I do think that.
That is what he thinks, yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me, honestly.
I would totally not be shocked at all if that was the case.
But he's not they're Nazis anyway, right? And Nazis,
Columbus for Mexico,
socialism. So you know what I mean?
They've been working with the Cubans for generations as well,
right, so
ever since JFK days.
It's all the same ideology. If you understand that, Nazism and communism and all that stuff, all that it ends up basing into these same beliefs. Whether however long the road is to the same belief, it gets to the same thing. So, communism should be called Illuminism anyway. It's all based off of the writings of Adam Weishaupt. Karl Marx didn't write the Communist Manifesto. That was written by a group of shady individuals. I can't remember what they called themselves, or what they were referred to. Gary Allen talks about it in None Dare Call It Conspiracy. That's like a starting point, and then he gives you all the references where you can go in the book where you can go learn more. And Marx didn't write the Communist Manifesto. They took.
I don't know if you're talking about the same thing, but Weishaupt's people from Bavaria were behind the French Revolution.
You see what I mean?
Which influenced the secret society of French intellectuals who had pre-communist thoughts.
But they took
their writings.
Well, yeah, but 100 years later, they took Weishaupt's writings, and that's what they came up with the Communist Manifesto, and then they just said, "Oh, look, Karl Marx wrote it."
But even 20 years after, the writings from the French Illuminists were pre-communist, and they were what directly inspired Marx and his cohorts, supposedly.
But you see, so the idea that inspired them, if you understand, you know what I mean, you start to do a little research, you know what I mean, you start to think a little deeper, and you start to look a little deeper into it, not us, like the average person that might not know about this stuff, you'll find that, what you know is not, like, when I would see these kids at Occupy reading the Communist Manifesto, I would walk over and I'd be like, you don't even know who wrote that. And they're like, "Oh, Karl Marx." Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, do you guys even know what that's based off of? I'm like, you should call that Illuminism. And they're like, what? I'm like, the Illuminati. I'm like, the Bavarian Illuminati. And they're like, oh, you're just a conspiracy theorist. Wait, you're out here protesting the government, saying the government's a police state and everything else, and blah 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 blah. But and you're quoting the Communist Manifesto and all this, and that's all the ideology, everything they believed in. That's all fine. I tell you, it comes from a guy that formed a real group, and because the name is Illuminati, suddenly it's into the memory hole of your brain. You don't want to hear it.
But how revealing is it that communism, in its most basic core, is supposedly aligned with the working class cause? But the whole Bavarian Illuminati thing, the Weishaupt thing, came out of the richest bankers of the day, who continued to influence the richest businessmen and industrialists who started the French Revolution, and on down the line until the richest Anglo-Americans backed the Bolshevik Revolution based on Marxism that launched into Soviet Russia. It's just been money all along. It's all been bullshit.
It's these same families, these same people, throughout history, the same blood lineage. But I know we're conspiracy theorists. I'm not a theorist. I'm a conspiracy factualist. And by the way, conspiracy is a real thing. A bunch of cops just got arrested, and they got charged with conspiracy. If they were, I don't remember if they were just stealing drugs and dealing them. I think it was over in the West Coast somewhere. And every day people are charged with conspiracy in court. So people need to knock that word out of the lexicon. Like take their word lexicon, unplug it from where it is, and put it back in the proper position. Because right now, it's under like UFOs and Bigfoot. No, you say conspiracy, and people are like, oh, you mean like ghosts and stuff? No, that's the paranormal or the unexplained. And although that stuff could be very real, and that's a subject in and of itself, but that shouldn't be, conspiracy shouldn't be with that. It shouldn't be labeled with that. Conspiracy happens all the time. I mean, if Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton got together and decided to steal things from the White House, like they did when they left, they conspired to rob the White House. I don't know how much plainer I could make that. You know what I mean? Like if Aaron and Melissa and I got together.
Politicians don't have people killed. Who's being naive now, Kay?
Yeah. No, dude. Reference. No, nice. You're right. Politicians don't have people killed. They would never do that, Aaron. But if by the way, if you or me or Melissa did any of this, if we stole stuff from the White House, we'd be charged with conspiracy to commit theft. Just so you know.
Gosh, you just sound like such a tinfoil hatter.
I know. Ugh, I know. It's to the point where conspiracy theorist is so overused, it's ridiculous. I was watching a video the other day about the Ukrainian thing and about the people getting bombed by the government of Kiev, not the Russians, but the Ukrainian government, just bombing innocent civilians that don't agree with them.
No, they're terrorists.
Yeah, they're terrorists. They're in their house, like putting laundry up, and right. And somebody was one of the local lawmakers there was saying it's outrageous, blah blah blah. And the Kiev government fired back, or a representative fired back with, "Oh, they're just a bunch of conspiracy theorists." And I was like, there you have it. There you have it. You have bombs landing on people and turning them into pulp in their backyard while they're hanging their laundry, doing nothing wrong. These people aren't separatists. They're just...
No, it's the separatist. It's the Russian separatist bases, which is some old lady's house, and she's standing in front of a pile of rubble.
Yeah.
And that guy has been quoted in Reuters as saying that he's cleansing his country of parasites. That is what he didn't call them terrorists. Our government's calling them terrorists to make it sound like something that people will get behind somehow. But he actually said parasites. He's talking about like an ethnic cleansing kind of thing that he's doing over here. And we're just okay with that. That's okay for him to go ahead and make that statement. We'll just back that right up.
But just the
evil.
whole...
It's evil.
A theorist in the field of science is celebrated as a potential genius, a pioneer who's going to break through and provide some new understanding.
Yes.
A theorist in politics and conspiracy is ridiculed and marginalized because they're pointing out that there's corruption and lies, things that don't make sense, and they're trying to figure it out.
People don't want to... People would rather just not deal with that. You're bringing the harsh reality in their face. They don't like that. It's uncomfortable. It's itchy.
Yeah, but if I had a theory of relativity, they'd put my face on a poster and...
Exactly.
Ugh.
Well, only if it matches up with, the agenda's theories. You have to have that theory of global warming being caused by men so we can all pay carbon taxes.
Did you hear the newest one? Did you hear the newest thing with global warming?
No.
Because now they don't call it global warming; they call it
climate change. Right?
They just check. Then they say if
you can't argue with it.
If you argue that the climate's not changing, then you're just crazy.
Exactly. The globe was not actually warming. The data did not support that, so we can't have that. So we got to change it to something no one can argue with semantically.
Yeah, well,
that's brilliant.
That's a straw man argument, and they're using another fallacy. They're changing. They're moving the goalposts. Is what they're doing.
Oh, God.
Okay, they're literally moving the goalposts. Like, it's global warming. No, global warming. Blah blah blah. Look, what you're saying is not true. Okay, it's climate change. Well, you just called it global warming. That's like the Iraq War. WMDs. No, now we're going to free people. Wait, hold on. Wait, what? We were in there for WMD? No, we really went into free people. The WMDs were a side issue. I don't remember that being a side issue. I remember that being the crux of your friggin' argument.
The whole entire argument.
Yeah, I remember that being the whole crux of it with, what's his name?
Women aren't allowed to drive.
Yeah, Colin Powell. Yeah, that was the third. Well, women aren't allowed to drive. Oh, so invading a country? What about Saudi Arabia then? I guess we should, while we're there, we should just make a U-turn. Oh, no, we won't do that because we need their money.
That country's killing people, so we got to go there and kill people too.
Yeah, I love that. Your government's killing you? Let us know. We'll come in and kill you instead. America, we're going to free the living crap out of you via bullets and bombs. It's insane. I'm going to cut us off because the top of the hour break is sneak up on us. Man, first hour just flew by with you guys.
You got to talk about the coming pandemic.
Yes, we can talk about everything. We'll scare everybody. Fear. I'm just kidding. We don't do that crap here. We cut through the fear. This isn't the mainstream media. We don't talk about hurricanes and pandemics and scare you. Take your vaccines. No, I'm only kidding. Don't take any vaccines. We'll be right back. Go get something to drink. Get a cup of coffee. Good call. Me too. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to hour number 2 here on tonight's live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. I am your host, Popeye from FederalJack.com. Joining me for the second hour, if you missed the first hour, go back and listen to it in the archives. Joining me again for the second hour are my good friends, Aaron Dykes and Melissa Melton.
Yes.
Can you guys, before I forget, because I totally forgot to have you do this in the beginning, and I don't know what's up and running and what's not, plug everything that you guys have up and running right now and where everybody can go see your reports and stuff.
Well, we have truthstreammedia.com. That's our main website. And we have YouTube, of course, where we put all our video reports up, TrueStream Media. username up on YouTube, and we're getting ready pretty soon to start. Is it okay for me to say?
Sure.
We're getting ready to start a show coming up pretty soon. So you're the first person we've told that to. But
breaking here.
I don't really want to say a whole lot more about it because then it becomes like a whole thing and stresses certain people out. But
I get stressed out by expectations,
and labels, and
we are trying to boil something down into a more presentable show type of format since we're doing this for a living but not really making any money. Trying to get more people to watch our stuff. And anyway.
Well, the thing is that a lot of our videos, I mean, if you look at some of the ones that have the most views, it's like I could talk about Katy Perry for 5 minutes and a whole lot of people watch that. But it's inconsequential to everyone's life, and who really cares? And I hate talking about that stuff. I'd rather talk about stuff that actually matters. But it's trying to find a creative way to get more people to pay attention to the stuff that really matters. So that's where we're going.
Well, it's like artists, they paint. Sometimes they they do music, depending on, what their art form is, to get a message across. So you guys are, I guess we're all artists in our own right? So if you guys are trying to take it to the next level, that's a good thing.
That's basically the plan. We want to try and do this in a more creative way so we can
Monty
get
Python way, maybe.
More people. Hey, you said not to mention a whole lot about what's coming up. But we want to try and do this in a more creative way so we can get more people to pay attention to what's actually going on and less attention to CNN and Fox News, which isn't going to help anybody. I still am not over. I was traumatized by having to watch that for 3 days. I don't know how people do this every day.
Yeah, I got to tell you, it wears down on me. It beats you up, and I took on a whole new dynamic about 6-7 months ago. I started. Well, I've always helped out people in need or whatnot, but I met a bunch of moms that were helping. They had sick kids and they were advocating for them. So I brought them on the radio show. I interviewed them all, and then I'm friends with them behind the off air, and I've helped them out with a few things here or there. But just knowing what they go through and seeing what them and then all these other parents that I'm exposed to with their sick kids, and I see stuff, and I try to advocate for them as much as I can, because we have so little time to even do what we normally do, plus your regular life. And I got to tell you, there was a period of time I had to take 5 minutes off and step back because it was beating the crap out of me. I had to take a couple of days off because it was after you see, I don't have kids of my own, but I have a niece and I have nephews. And if they were sick, I would it would bother me, and I would want to be able to do everything in my power to help them out. And I see these parents go through what they go through with their sick kids and stuff, and man, I got to tell you, that. I mean, with everything else, after I was focused on that for a while. I actually I went back to the stuff that we deal with on a normal basis was like a vacation for me, compared to just the emotional burden of that, because you feel bad. You want to help these kids and you can't do anything for them. So yeah, I know what you mean. This stuff you need a break sometimes. Sometimes you need to unplug, and you need to just pull your head out of it. And there are days that you'll get depressed doing this too. I mean, everybody goes through it. You wouldn't be a normal human being if the things that you see going on around you in the world today didn't bother you. And especially when you go through it, from an analyst point of view, to try to give a breakdown of it and maybe a viewpoint to everybody else out there, it's a huge responsibility to have. I wake up in the morning and I'm like, I know I have to, do a decent show. And I think to myself, you got to do. You have a responsibility that when you go on air tonight, that you don't do a half-ass show. When I come on, I don't want to come on and just waste my listeners' time. There are times I'll do a show where it's a little bit more lighthearted or something, and I try to, break the ice a little bit, because I know that everything and everybody, out there is stressed out with all the fear and all the insanity that's going on. But I don't want to waste anybody's time, coming on air. I'd rather them come on and learn something. So, no, I know what you mean. All that does get stressful.
It's very frustrating. And, it's frustrating, too, that we can cover all the bad stuff that happens. But if you even try to talk about a way to solve this stuff and get out of it, personal things you can do in your life, grow and garden type stuff, it's hard to get people's attention on the same level as horrible political candidates saying stupid things.
Because they're addicted to the fear and the scandal. It's become the fear produces, our bodies are chemically dependent on certain things, right? And just like if you take too many pills or too many drugs, whatever, you can get addicted to it. Well, we have so much adrenaline and all these other chemicals that our body produces when we're in the fear mode, that it's almost like our brains, and just living in it for so long, they've become dependent on it. You try to unplug them, and they're like a heroin addict, having withdrawal. I mean, that's the way I see it.
I think that's a good analogy.
It's like they're addicted to the fear. And you try to tell them it's okay not to be afraid, and they're like, no, I have to be afraid. And you're like, yo, chill, Jesus. Okay, we need to smoke this joint, and then we'll have a conversation.
Well, and I think, too, especially Aaron, there's so much he wants to say sometimes, and I can see the frustration just brimming there, because I want to talk about this, I want to write about that, I want to do, but to do it in the way that only Aaron can takes time for him. It takes hours of research and reading, and there's a lot of prep work that goes into that stuff. So we've just talked about it, and we decided, if we put this into a format, and we have segments, and we put this in a more digestible way, maybe turn it up a notch so that people can, because otherwise, any given time, we could just turn the camera on our living room and start talking, and just talk for like 5 hours and just put that up, about a range of topics, right? But we keep trying to get this goal where we're going to have these 5-minute videos where we just discuss something quickly for It never happens. We can't do that, and we never will. We're just not going to. It's just not the way that it is. Because if more than 5 minutes worth of stuff needs to be said, then more than 5 minutes of stuff needs to be said.
Well, the public needs to be forced to learn to pay attention again. One of the things I find, a lot of people that do what we do, they want to cater to the short attention span. And I think that's actually exacerbating the problem. Like, that's why I won't do that. I've gotten criticized for the way I put my shows up on YouTube. I've had people say to me, you'd get more hits if you cut out little sections and just put them up. Well, yeah, you're right, I probably would. But first of all, I don't have time for that. So maybe when I'm rich and I have a crew to do that for me, yeah, okay. And second of all, I'm trying to change the way people think, not how, what they think about. I want you to be open-minded and think about everything. I'm trying to get you to change the way your brain actually works, because right now it's stuck in this boot cycle. And we're trying to, restart it. We might have to nuke the drive and reinstall Windows or Linux or whatever operating system you choose to.
I was reading a book the other day just about the way that we breathe. I don't think people sit and think about how they're breathing, but when I suddenly become conscious of the fact that I'm breathing, I'll notice I'm taking very tiny, short, shallow breaths. That's probably not the healthiest way to breathe.
No, actually, it's one of the first things you learn in yoga. It's that, the first couple times I did yoga, I realized I'm completely breathing incorrectly. And because they teach you how to breathe properly, you don't realize how much of your lungs you're not inhaling into. Really,
exactly.
For real. You take a deep breath, and they teach you how to take a breath in yoga properly, and you're like, whoa. Where'd all that lung capacity come from? I didn't think I had that. It's amazing, because you're used to just breathing so shallow. Your brain has become programmed that's the norm. That's why everything is the way it is too. That's why they hammer, the powers that shouldn't be in the media. They hammer with so many things at once, because now chaos is the norm. Right? Confusion and fear and chaos is the norm. And when people are immersed in chaos, confusion, and fear, what do they normally do? They look to the guy with the cape, with the S on his chest, to save them.
Us.
And in our world, that's these guys with these $10,000 suits that walk around Washington.
Goldman Sachs. Well, I have to say, though, and just in talking with people in recent weeks, I've gotten several phone calls from people, activists and other people that I know, that have called me and just said, I feel bad. I feel like something bad is coming. Something bad is getting ready to happen. And at first, when this was said to me, with the first person that said it, I was like, oh, because I know her. And I was like, oh, well, that might be something you feel periodically. But then 2, 3, 4 more phone calls came from random different people who don't normally say things like that. And then there was one night that I couldn't sleep. And I told Aaron, I said, I feel imminently as if something bad is going to happen. And the next day after that was when that whole Vegas cop shooting happened. The very next morning after the night that I couldn't sleep. And then they were demonizing, remember, they demonized the crap out of the Patriot movement, anyone even connected to the Patriot movement, anyone critical of the government. There was that whole media blitz on that. They tied all of it back to the Bundy Ranch, right? So there was that whole thing going on. And since that's happened, I've had even more people contact me saying that they have just a bad nagging feeling that something bad is coming. And I guess maybe that is part of what's playing into my mind. But when I see what's going on at our southern border and how completely orchestrated this is, I mean, this is so obviously a staged event. But how far are they willing to take it? Because right now, to me, this is a very serious issue. And I think all the things that are going on are very serious, even though I know a lot of them are staged, and I know a lot of what our media tells us is not true. And I'm concerned about a lot of things that are going on. And I'm not just concerned about this because it's closer to home, although obviously, I mean, I live in Texas, but something about this event that's happening right now is unsettling at a new level. And I don't think it's just because of the proximity.
No, it's unsettling because you can see that there's other people in positions of power that would normally be rooting with the government that are completely unsettled by it. And humans, just like animals, because we're mammals, at a subconscious level, we can sense when something else in the herd is sensing something dangerous. We're all walking around and there's lions preying, waiting for us, and so one of the buffalo in the front sees it and they start to alert the others by making a noise. Well, that's what's going on right now. And no, I agree. I think a large part of it has to do with that open border. And Joe's been harping on this, and so is my good buddy Kev Baker here on the network about, and they bring up good points, and I've mentioned it myself, as have others out there, that you have TSA feeling your wife up when you go to the airport, and feeling your kids up and you up when you go to the airport, and you have to get nuked to get on the plane because Al-Qaeda might be hiding in your purse, or in your wife's boobs somewhere. But it's perfectly fine to have the southern border wide open, and then anybody and everyone can come across. And I like how they're like, wow, there's no terrorists coming across. How do you know there's no terrorists coming across?
They don't know anything that's going on. Right before this hit the media and was a big, huge thing, Aaron did a report about an article that was in the USA Today where Customs and Border Patrol admitted flat out that they're only stopping 5% of drugs and
Heroin
things that are coming. Heroin, yeah, that's coming into the country. So they already know they're completely ineffective because obviously we're helping to grow that stuff in other countries. But that's a side issue. But they already knew they were ineffective before that. But now you have these timelines, which I hadn't seen before. I was doing research and came across them. There are timelines out there which show how this has been a strategy of the Obama administration for years now, and that piece by piece they've completely dismantled our immigration laws because, as he said he gets up and makes speeches and says, look, Congress won't do what I want them to. They just won't. And so because they won't, I'm just going to have some executive orders. I'm going to sign some executive actions. And then when you point out that he's saying that, even though that's obviously not the way the government is supposed to work at all, then you point that out and they're like, oh, but FDR signed more than him, so it's okay. It's like, how is that a good argument? That doesn't mean anything he's doing right now is okay. I mean, the fact is, this is creepy on so many fronts. It's creepy because the Rex 84 program with the FEMA camps, that was all started under the pretext of what? A huge influx of immigration, right? So we're seeing that. It's also, you've got all these people coming over. They're not being quarantined. They're not even being medically checked. There are pictures out where they have these children all lying together on the floor, like a cold cement floor with like those little foil blankets or whatever. They're not quarantining and checking people. There's people coming in with hemorrhagic dengue fever and drug-resistant tuberculosis and HIV and scabies and rabies. I saw one for rabies. I mean, just any hand and foot disease and all kinds of stuff just coming through. And then what do? They say, oh, well, you got to come back for a hearing. Here's a bus ticket to wherever you pretty much want to go. We'll see you back in a few weeks. And so people are being shipped off and flown off, and they've got who knows what diseases and placed all over the place.
Right, but if you go to the doctor, Melissa, and you have one of these like super contagious, if you had tuberculosis, TB, if you had consumption, okay, if you had tuberculosis and you went to the doctor, they would put you in quarantine forcefully. They'd be like, "Sorry, you got to go to quarantine." Poof, that's it. They would put a cop outside your door. These people, they have tuberculosis. They're like, "Don't worry, Doc Holliday, you'll be fine. Moving on up."
Move it, yeah. And then you've got all the documents that are coming out that people are finding and putting up. You've got the purchase order from the DHS for the 65,000 unaccompanied alien children for escorts for the alien children back from January. You've got in February, the Department of Justice posted their appropriations for 2015 saying they wanted to fund a pilot program for unaccompanied children. I mean, these people knew this was coming a long time ago. And you've got the leaked Homeland Security memo where they admit that only 0.1% of the Central American minor children that are entering illegally have actually been deported as of 2013. They were only deporting 0.1%. They admit that. So they've known this is coming this whole time. They've done all this stuff to foment this. And now you've got Obama saying, I need $4 billion to fix the problem that I just created systematically over the last 5 years or whatever. It's insane. It's insane. And so you've got that plus the pandemic issue, the sicknesses, the illnesses, that's going to just continue to play out. Meanwhile, some of the immigrants that are coming over that are less talked about are from West Africa. That's not really being discussed, but some of the people that are coming through, it's not like everyone coming through is just from Central America. They're not. There's some of these people are also coming out from West Africa. And what's going on in West Africa right now? Well, the deadliest Ebola outbreak in the history of since they've been recording Ebola outbreaks in modern times. So, I mean, it's almost like they're just putting everything in the pot and stirring it.
ISIS fighters or people that are, connected with ISIS are coming over. So that's awesome. Too. That's awesome.
That is also happening as well. All these people are just coming right in, and it's almost like they're just throwing it's like someone up there is throwing everything in the pot, right? They're just going to throw it all in and stir it around, just see what happens. Hopefully they'll get the most bang for their buck and I guess suffering. I mean, it's really disturbing. It's really, and then you've got Congress people that are not being allowed to go into the bases to see the children and see what's actually going on. They're being denied entry. They're saying, "Oh, you have to make an appointment, come back in 3 weeks."
Did you see the hearing? This was the one time, and I hate John McCain. He is a traitor. He himself is a war criminal and a piece of crap. But don't get me started. Anyway, he ripped into, I guess it's the head of the Border Patrol or whoever. They were at the special hearing meeting or whatever, and he's like, "What do you mean that we can't bring our phones and we have to ask permission and all this, and we have to have a special tour, and why can't I take my phone?" Well, we don't want people taking pictures of the children because of their privacy. Those kids have privacy rights. Oh, do they? They have privacy rights? Oh, okay. I'm glad that they have the right to privacy. So what else do they have the right to? Anyway, McCain flipped out on them, and he was like, I mean, I thought he was going to have a heart attack. He was actually genuinely pissed off, and he was like, if I want to come down there, I'm a senator in Arizona. This is my state. I will come down there, and I'm going to bring my phone, and if I want to take pictures, I'm going to take pictures, and you're going to fix that. You're going to change that rule right now. You're going to get on it ASAP. Like he was telling them, he wasn't giving them any option. Whether they will do it, who the hell knows? But this is the one case I have to agree. Who the hell are these people to tell anyone that they can't go down? These lawmakers, you can't go down there. I mean, it'd be one thing if they were trying to tell protesters, or you can't come in here, blah, 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 it's a secure area. These are people that are like, they're the lawmakers, buddy. You're carrying out their orders pretty much. So, if you understand the way, the way the structure is supposed to work. And here you have, one of these one of these guys that's used to not being told no, and they're being told no, you can't even come in here. So you have to ask what's going on. You have to wonder, why is this happening? What are they doing? Like Obama went to Texas for fundraisers and didn't even go to the border. He went
stuff.
No, you're right. He went for Democratic Party fundraisers and didn't care about anything. Didn't even stop at the border. This is the president. He's supposed to be stopping that because he doesn't care. Instead, he was hanging out with Robert Rodriguez, who is a filmmaker, and if you don't know, he made the movie Machete, which is a movie that some people were worried was going to incite a race war. Although, if you do watch the movie Machete he takes vengeance upon like the ranchers and people that are killing the Mexicans that are trying to cross to get a better life. And so now you see militia going down there. You see, you see ranchers down there arming themselves, trying to guard their property as best they can. And instead of the federal government going, wow, our border is wide open, we need to send troops down there or whatever, send police down there, more border patrol. No. And I don't agree with sending the active duty military down there. Perhaps maybe sending the National Guard, because that would be their job. But, state police, border patrol. But no, instead, they're just like letting them come in. I mean, he's telling ICE agents to take like paid we're going to give you paid vacation. Don't worry about it. Just take.
Yeah, and he's putting gag orders on anybody else that wants to try and talk about it.
I don't understand how people aren't like, okay, this is criminal. And there's a lot of people out there that are like, well, these poor people, they're suffering. Okay, I understand that.
It's a humanitarian crisis. It's not an illegal immigration crisis. It's a humanitarian crisis.
Well, they're turning it into one, and nothing for nothing, but no other country in the planet does this. And I don't want to hear people say, well, we're America, we're not like any other country. Okay, genius, where do you suppose we get the money to pay for every single person?
He sat here and dismantled all of our laws for years, and now he's like, Congress, you better give me that $4 billion to fix my problem that I created. Because we just have $4 billion sitting around, right? Just in the White House couch cushions. There's the $4 billion.
Billion with a B.
With a B. We're so used to these big numbers that I guess people are just numb to the idea. $4 billion. Billion.
They're nonchalantly talking about. I heard on the radio the other day. Well, Obama wants $4 billion. It was like 3.9, almost 4, whatever the hell it was, almost $4 billion to take care of these the illegals coming across, and they're not all kids. They frame it that it's all kids, and it's a huge logical fallacy. It's appeal to emotion. Oh, it's for the children. We have starving children here in this country, you morons. We cannot feed everybody. Why don't we just open all of our borders and let everybody from the world that's having a bad day come into our country? The country won't last 6 months, and if people are like, well, that's good, we'll have change. No, you won't have anything, moron. You won't. You think if the country fails and its sovereignty fails, you still have your property rights? No, it'll be like Mad Max. And you'll have people that will come over from wherever, and they'll be in the country however long. Maybe gangs will start, and then one day one of these gangs will say, hey, you know what? We want your house and your property and your wife and your daughter. Well, no, you can't have them. Boom, they shoot you in the effing head, and that's it. And then they take it. Because that's what, if you opened up every border, eventually it would turn into. And that's not a slippery slope fallacy. That's the truth. That's why no country on the planet just says, yes, open the borders, everybody and their mother who's having a bad day and you don't like your country, come in, we'll feed you everything, we'll give you everything, because the country will collapse on itself. It's not sustainable.
Well, and exactly, and that's why we've got congressmen now coming forward saying, yes, admittedly, Obama is using a Cloward Piven strategy to overwhelm America and crash the system. And they're openly admitting, yes, that is what we think is going on. It's like, you're a congressman, you're a congressperson, and you're openly saying our president is trying to crash America with a Cloward Piven strategy.
So it's time to do something about it.
They're doing what about it? Nothing.
But that's what I'm saying. They're admitting it.
It's insane. They're just like, yep, that's totally what's going on. We know it.
And not even crash America to make no America, crash America to make an even bigger welfare state. But the problem is this is all smoke and mirrors because it's going on behind the scenes. This border clash and everything is like some kind of playing field in a stadium game. And up in the skybox are all the relevant officials from all possible sides. They're all hanging out, drinking wine, and shaking hands and making deals.
Of course they are. They're evil scum. I'm gonna cut us off right there, Aaron, because the break's sneaking up. I'll let you pick up right there on the other side when we come back. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We will be right back. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. So, I know I said idiots before, and I always say that you shouldn't use ad hominem attacks, right? So I will correct myself. I shouldn't bring myself down to that level and allow myself to fall to that. But I get frustrated because I see very smart people that I consider not to be idiots, that I consider to be really intelligent people I know. Other activists have even said to me, well, Popeye, the humanitarian level, you're always talking about taking care of our own. And yeah, look, in a perfect world, we'd all be able to do that. And in order to get to there, there's a starting point. But you can't just jump in. It's like you got to learn how to crawl before you can run a marathon, right? And we're in the crawling stages yet, and we have to figure out how to get upright and even walk. I mean, we haven't even figured that out yet. And yet, I understand it's horrible. I understand what these people are going through, but you wouldn't have this massive influx of people if there weren't certain policies that were put forth by the Obama administration on purpose. If certain laws weren't changed, if laws weren't being broken, if people weren't being told to stand down, this wouldn't be happening now. So they did it on purpose to ramp it up, okay? And you have to understand, if you're okay with just let them all in, no worries, well then think of it on a lower level. If that's the case, take your front door, your garage door, and your back door off your house. Take them right off. If you live in an apartment, open your windows and take your front door and when I say take it off, I mean take it off the hinges and put it away. You don't need it. Why have it? It's a border. No, it's not. Yes, it is. It's a border. That's your land versus the outside land, right? And people can do whatever the hell they want in outside land, but in your land, it is your castle, right? A man's home is his castle, his sovereign area, correct? Right? Well, if the idea extends to the country itself, you have to have some sort of border or boundary in order for you to have that structure. Now, I know everybody's like, well, I'm for getting rid of government and this and that. Okay, I don't like the word government either, but that's to say that you shouldn't have some sort of structure like that. You could make it easy to pass from border to border. We don't have to be such dicks about it. I mean, there's semantics all the way down the line with all the arguments. But the point is, if you're for just leaving the border wide open as it is right now, well, then you might as well take the doors off your house and invite anybody and their mother to come on in and tell them, don't worry about food, I'll pay for it. Don't worry about using the bathroom, I'll pay for the water and I'll clean it. And I'll provide the toilet paper. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about wiping your shoes or your feet. Don't worry about it. Hey, if the bathroom line is too long, just piss in the corner of my living room. Don't worry about it. I'll clean it up. That's what we're doing. And eventually your house is going to look like a pile of crap. And the only way to take care of it will be to pour gasoline all over it and throw a match into it and watch it burn down, because that'll be the only way to sanitize it too. Okay? And that's what's going to happen to this country. There's a proper way to do things. I feel bad for these people, but they wouldn't be making the trek up here, okay, if there wasn't an allure. And let me ask you this. How the hell are these kids making it by themselves from, South America into Texas? Well, that 8-year-old, that precocious 8-year-old, really? The 8-year-old came by himself? You don't think there might have been some adult with him? Some gang members? You don't think maybe they're being used as mules? How about a lot of these kids afterwards, they're being kidnapped, they disappear, no one knows where they go. So how do you know they're not being sold into the child sex slave trade?
They are.
Well, and why now, when this has been going on for years and years and decades, why is it suddenly children, suddenly in the news, suddenly in everyone's faces, right around the immigration debate? I mean, Eric Cantor just got thrown out of office on the pretext that he was too sympathetic with amnesty on the GOP side of the fence. They're working this issue. They're working it. Of course, it's humanitarian and children. Look whose buzz terms those are. They belong to the United Nations and the bankers who run the international system. And behind the scenes, they've already merged these countries. It was 2005 they signed the North American Union Agreement. 1994 was NAFTA. 2006 was CAFTA. They bullied the Central American countries into that agreement.
Well, this is the NAU. What you see, and they're just almost implementing it. What did Pelosi say the other day?
It's a community with a border running through it.
Bingo.
Ugh.
That word.
God, I can't stand her. She's like the Al Gore of female Al Gore to me. I just can't stand her. Like, I just cannot stand her. I can't. When she starts talking, I almost have to. It's like somebody scratching a chalkboard.
The exact countries we're dealing with think tank together in conferences that are international in scope, and they have the
how to leverage human capital.
Their meeting title was literally "How to Leverage Human Capital" in the context of migration and new rules of the game and so forth.
But even let's take this down and look at it at a micro level with this Marietta thing that's going on, where the people protested and they were getting buses turned around and sent back, and they said we're going to send a federal riot squad. Who's going to be the riot squad anyway? Was it ICE? They were supposed to come down there with shields and force people back and force these buses through. And you've got this one guy down there who claims to have been a resident of Marietta since 1991 saying the station they're trying so hard to get these people into, the federal government wants to take these people to, there's no showers, there's only 5 holding cells, there's only 1 toilet in each cell, there's no place for them to have hot food, there's no real beds there, there's really nothing for them. There's a small town. There's nothing for them. Once they process them, there's nowhere for them to get. They're saying, look, why are you trying so hard to bring these buses to this one place where there's not anything here for them? There's not even any room. Why are they even bringing them? It's that kind of question. And then they face off with these people. And then on the other side of that, you've got certain militia groups that are having all this talk. They're kind of using some key words like they're going to provoke violence with these people. And
it looks a lot like a provocation.
It looks like a provocation. It becomes to a point where you're wondering to yourself, it's only going to take one person to do one bad thing to a child in this very heated situation. This whole thing is going to explode like a friggin' match on gasoline. I mean, it's scary. It's like they're setting all the pieces in place for this to happen. If I was watching it, if this was a movie and I was watching it and I'm in the theater eating my popcorn watching this, that's where I'd be like, this is where this plot is heading.
Well, it's like
don't head into the basement. Don't go upstairs.
Don't run back upstairs. The killer's coming after you. Go outside. That's what this is like.
You ever see the movie V for Vendetta?
Yes.
Right. You remember what he did, right, to get the population all riled up, and finally they wore the masks and they met him. They all stood outside at the end, outside Parliament.
They killed that girl. They had the police kill that girl, right?
Right. Well, the cops killed that girl, but she broke
curfew. Right.
She broke curfew, and the people snapped. Right. But see, what he did was he sent the masks out. He did his little raid thing, where he projected he did the video. He got the people all riled up, and then while they were riled up, the little girl got brave, and she was wearing her V mask, and the fingermen, which were the cops in the movie, they shot her. And when they shot her, what happened? Everybody snapped, and they started beating them with crowbars and everything else, and then you see the riots and everything else and people flipping out and chaos and mayhem, and it forced the government to clamp down. But my point is, you see what he did? Like, through a strategic set of moves, he created chaos, and then waited because he knew something would happen. He knew that there would be
the key? Strategic
an element.
Chaos.
Right, exactly. Strategic chaos. And that's what they're doing with this. It's the same thing.
Look what happened, just for example, at the Bundy Ranch. They had all the Patriots there, armed standoff, made the BLM back off. Great injustice there over one guy's ranch, right? Land rights issue. But they also got to observe what people's breaking points are and how they react to different subsets of that situation. And they had provocateurs on the scene. That Miller guy and his wife who ended up shooting the cops in Vegas, they were there talking about meeting violence with violence. And luckily the people on the scene had the good sense to make them leave and disarm them and recognize them as provocateurs. But they were there. And you don't think they're going to be at the border, which is not even... The border is not even one specific location one giant ranch. It's all across 4 states, all these different cities where people are being deposited and housed.
Exactly. But if you're paying attention over the last couple months, all of it looks like it's set up. It's like first you had the Bundy Ranch situation, and like you said, with the provocateurs. Then you had those people killing the cops, and they put the Gadsden flag on the cop, and they said the revolution's now, and they acted all insane. And most people that you talk to, if you even want to call it the Patriot movement, but they don't act like that. They don't talk like that. This is ridiculous, like almost a cartoonish characterization of the Patriot movement going on, and these crazy people that did this crazy thing, which looks all kinds of wrong for multiple reasons. But then that gave the media an excuse to just completely demonize the entire Patriot movement, anyone who's a constitutionalist. The Oath Keepers were thrown in there. And now on this whole riot thing where they're calling riot cops into Marietta, they're talking about militia going down there. The media is already saying anti-government groups are descending on the border. And they're saying people who are called patriots, quote unquote, oath keepers, quote unquote, and 3%ers. I mean, they're already talking, and then that automatically got ramped up from there. It went from there to, what did they say? They were anti-immigrant vigilante hate groups. So first they're patriots, then they're immediately anti-government armed, groups. Then they're hate groups. They're vigilante hate groups. It's like the rhetoric is getting ramped up out of control.
Of course it is, because, if you stand up for your rights, you're a terrorist.
And how far can this go if it was provocated into, say, a shooting war? What happens if somebody decides to shoot an immigrant or a Border Patrol agent? Terrible idea, but they talk about this going as far as provoking a civil war, breaking the U.S. off into 6 states or breaking them off into the FEMA regions. At some point, this could descend into all-out civil unrest. And if they're going to activate the FEMA camps and the military bases for the influx of immigrants, why wouldn't they activate them to house the out-of-control so-called patriots, Well,
it makes you wonder if Northcom's been activated for this already, and just nobody knows. It blows my mind, because these immigrant, some of these places that they said were for an that they built, remember the FEMA camps, for a supposed influx of immigrants that we were supposed to have. Remember? Oh, look, here's the influx. Oh, because everybody was like, that'll never happen. We have the Border Patrol. Oh, look. Well, when the Border Patrol is told to stand down and not do their job, because that's what a stand down order is. The same thing that they had on 9/11, stand down orders. But nevertheless, when you have a stand down order, that's what happens. So now you have all these FEMA camps built, right? But like down here in South Florida, we have Camp Chrome, which is down in South Miami. And if you've ever seen Camp Chrome, it's a FEMA camp. I mean, they admit it's an immigrant detention camp. But at like any given point, there's like 100, 200 immigrants in there at the most, like whoever the Coast Guard brings in. And a lot of the times, like when I was in the Guard, we used to end up repatriating them ourselves back to Haiti or back to Cuba. A lot of times they would go through the system and then get sent back. But if we caught them on the water, they just went back on the ship and off you went. Cubans get wet foot, dry foot. They're the only ones. Even if Haitians make it here, if they make it to land, then they get detained down at the Chrome Detention Center. Then they get processed and they get sent back. But you have this huge detention center that can process like 1 million people. And it's only got a couple hundred people max at any given time. So what is it just sitting there waiting for? And then you see all them all being turned on by this crisis. Look, all I'll say is there was I think it was called I can't remember the name of the book off the top of my head, the proper title, the Man Who Said I Am, or something like that. Mae Brussell talked about it, and I've played the audio a couple times from this one show she did, and I don't remember off the top of my head the date. If you just go on YouTube, or even Federal Jack in the search bar, but if you go on YouTube and type in Mae Brussell King Alfred Plan, the videos, the shows I've done on it, and her episode should come up either on my channel or Conspiracy Scope's YouTube channel. That guy's great. He archives everything. Conspiracy Scope, a Conspiracy Scope with the number 2 after it. Go check out those channels. Anyway, if you listen to May, she talked about the King Alfred plan, and when you listen to it, now they say it was fictional, but the leaflets were passed out on subways in predominantly black communities back in like the late 60s, early 70s, sometime around that time period. I can't remember the exact date off the top of my head, but I actually had an old original, not these new school Black Panthers, but one of the old school Black Panthers contact me after I did the first show on it. And he was like, no, you're right. I remember I was handing out some of those leaflets. So some of the leaflets were talking about the King Alfred plan. And the King Alfred plan was like the government's supposed plan for martial law if there was ever a black on white race war. Because, racial tensions. And it was their plans to start rounding up black people from predominantly black neighborhoods. Now, when you read the plan, they broke the country up into the same amount of FEMA regions. And the regions were almost the exact same. Like the layout, what states were in it. And even the numbers were somewhat close. A couple of the numbers were off here and there. And, like one region might have had one state that now, was in another region. But it was like eerily similar. And she talks about it. She's like, she says, look, they say it's a fictional story, but I think it's real. I've got enough. Yeah, and you have to go listen to the broadcast. It's in my archives. If for the listeners, go to my thefederaljack.com archives. You could listen to it there if you want to. But just look up King Alfred Plan on Federal Jack, and it'll bring up all the stuff, including May's original broadcast, because I have her stuff up there too. And a link to the May Brussels website, which you should go and support. That guy's awesome because he gave me all the archives for you guys to be able to hear. So she talked about this, and it was just when you see the similarities between like the 10 FEMA regions and everything else, and then you're like, oh my God, or whatever, the 6 FEMA regions, whatever, and then you're like, oh my God, you look at it and you're just like, oh, this is just crazy. And then you realize that this plan actually could have been true back then, and this could be morphed into what we see now. I mean, things could change, right? They twist it. But what if that? If you think about it, the King Alfred plan was race-based, race wars. Well, so what if it's not black people versus white people? What if it's Mexicans or South? I don't know, because it's not all Mexicans. South Americans or illegal immigrants versus Americans. What if that's how it's divided? You know what I'm saying?
Popeye, I don't know if you already talked about this guy, but I did a big video exposing this in the context of the border crisis. Peter Sutherland, who's the head of Goldman Sachs International, who's on the Bilderberg Steering Committee, who we watch every year for his role in various things, he's also the head of UN migration right now. And you got to look at the statements he's made about Europe already and how the European Union is part of this big free trade thing to bust up the original populations of the UK and France and the old line European countries. And his whole vision of multiculturalism is to undermine what he calls the homogeny of these countries. He's purposefully using immigration, migration, both legal and illegal, to basically subvert these countries and force them to integrate into the larger European Union. And as you can see, they're doing similar things on the North American continent. You've got the banks covertly supporting all this migration that's happening, all the drug war stuff. And then this guy, Peter Sutherland, who's the head of UN migration, head of Goldman Sachs International, happens to be the father of globalization. He was the guy who transitioned from GATT, the General Agreement on Tariffs and Treaties, to the World Trade Organization with their big first meeting in 1997. He's implemented a lot of these NAFTA policies, and they destroyed Mexico by dumping cheap corn from the corn industrial complex of all these different countries, and they put millions of farmers out of business, forced them to go north to the border. They used Walmart to destroy the economy and kill any small jobs, medium businesses, and force more people to go ahead to the border. Now they've done it to Central America. It's by design.
Yeah, there's a video of him talking about how we need to have an international regime.
They want a barbarian
to handle the migrations.
They want a barbarians at the gate, Roman style, that the bankers actually control.
Well, and then they'll tell you you're racist for bringing this up, but who's more racist? The people that are actually using these downtrodden individuals and promising them things and lying to them or whatever to lure them up here to cause a problem to then use as a political weapon against their enemies, this country, whatever, to push their agenda, or the people that are going, This is really bad because our country can't sustain this. It's not sustainable. They always talk about sustainable development. This ain't it. I can tell you that. Okay, on multiple levels. And if you complain about that, and then you know the other side does say these people they're being used by this government. We're
all being used. They purposely put us at each other's throats by destroying our economy and the Mexican economy, wanting us to be pitted against each other.
Exactly. And so it's not racist, or at least it's not racist for us to point this out. It's my question is, who are the real racists? The people pointing it out are the people that are actually doing all the using and abusing, and I would say it's the people doing all the using and abusing. Although they're the very individuals that are telling everybody that the people that are pointing out their misdeeds are racist. You know what I mean? You're like, thief, and the guy's like, well, you're a dick. I don't like the way you look. You're covered in tattoos or whatever. It's a total. It's tu quo qui. It's answering criticism with criticism, but on a huge scale. And people fall for it because it's for the children. That's why they use the emotion.
But the children aren't going to get anything here. They're going to come. I mean, we're what are the top 10 jobs in America? 8 of them are like food service type jobs or something, minimum wage jobs. People don't have jobs. The middle class is disappearing.
That's
completely.
The American dream.
No one's got anything. We're all in debt bondage over one issue or another. A lot of our working force has college debt. That's the next bubble. It's over $1 trillion. We don't have anything. And then you find flyers that were put out in Spanish that say, you can apply for food stamps coming out from the USDA. You can apply for food stamps. We won't check your immigration status. They're trying to get the system to crash. It's very Cloward Piven. And so that they can do what? And how far are they going to take it? I mean, that's the real question here. How far is this one going to go? The fact that it's happening so quick, it seems like it's happening so suddenly and so quickly, even though obviously this has slowly been in the works for years. But now that it's coming to a head, it seems like things are moving super fast. And it's like I don't even want to get up and look at what's on the news tomorrow.
I wonder if Cantor getting voted out was like, this is their crap handle. They're grabbing it and they're going, because he was, they had, the amnesty wasn't dead until he got voted out. Once he lost his position and that was it, then there was no hope because he was still running around trying to push it. Now he's gone. Now there's no hope of amnesty. And Obama said, that he'll take, executive actions, right? Well, if you create the crisis, then you have to respond to the crisis, right? Oh my God, the boat is flooding. Don't pay any attention.
I just poked 20 holes in it over the last year, but
exactly.
now
my friends are hitting the side of the hull.
Can you buy me a new boat? I need a new boat. It's $4 billion. Can you buy me a new? Hey, there's a statement that just got released today. Today he was in Dallas. Obama was meeting with Rick Perry and talking about the U.S.-Mexico border thing. And they asked him, why hasn't he gone there? Why is he refusing to go? This is a quote. "This is not theater. This is a problem. I'm not interested in photo ops." That was his reason for not going to the border. He's going to ask Congress for $4 billion for a problem he's not even willing to go look at. But it's because he's not interested in a photo op. He just wants a check.
It's because he's waiting to respond to the actual crisis.
Yeah, he's waiting until...
He doesn't want to be seen on the scene of the crime while the dirty deeds are being done.
Exactly.
No, he'll go down there once there's a pile of rubble and stand on it. We'll get the people that brought these buildings down, right?
Oh God.
Sure. Okay.
Sad.
Well, no, that's what they're waiting for. That moment, that'll be his photo op then. Except in this one, it'll probably be him standing there giving amnesty to everybody. I've decided, F it. I'm the president. I'm going to do what I want.
I just couldn't get over. And then there were people in the video that were arguing when he said, "Look, Congress won't do what I want them to do."
He's not going to show up for makeup and a teleprompter and fake tears until a dead kid is on the ground.
Oh, God.
No, then he'll be right next to the dead kid saying, "This could have been my child.
This could have been me.
Don't worry. This could have been my kid. This could have been me from when I was in Kenya and I made the trek all the way up here and across on the boat, in the little dinghy." Captain Jack Sparrow.
I mean, if there was ever a moment that people should have been like, oh gosh, it should have been the time when he straight up said, look, Congress just won't do what I want them to, so I'm going to have to just do it myself.
Look,
that is so anti everything this country is built on, 180 degrees. Like, it's
a tyrant.
They got other tricks in the bag, too, because they started reporting on uncovering mass graves at the border a week or two back.
I haven't heard more about that, but I did hear about that.
That didn't really make the news, but they're going to throw that in people's faces, too, if need be. And
appeal to emotion. Oh, my God, you have to do something. Something must be done. Something must be done. And then everybody's going to be like, yes, just open the borders. Just come on, bring them in. We have to do it. And it's like, dude, we can't even take care of our own. They don't take care of our veterans.
We have more people on welfare,
it's ridiculous,
and food stamps than at any other time in the history of this country. We cannot, it's not sustainable in any kind of way. And then on top of that, you have all these people coming in with all of these diseases, and that is happening, and they're not giving those people medical care. They're not checking those people out or helping them or doing anything to stop that at all, and just send those people and spread those people out everywhere.
They'll die. And then they'll
basically a bio-warfare.
Yeah, that's real nice.
Flowered Piven says that socialism is underserved, that there are more people who need to be on welfare who aren't, but they don't think they qualify. They don't know they should be in the program. Therefore, overwhelm it and expand the program by showing the crisis. It's so in line with what they're doing.
So the answer will be...
They're advertising food stamps to low-income people, saying, don't hold out for your white mountain pride, go sign out for food stamps. They're advertising food stamps.
Of course they are. Guys, I got to cut us off.
Spanish.
I got to cut us off. Because, well, it's all being done on purpose, but I got to cut us off because the end of the show is coming up. We got like 15 seconds, literally. Thank you so much for coming on, you two.
Yeah, thanks for having us on. The answer's going to be bigger government.
Yeah, definitely. That's cool. That's going to be their answer anyway. Ugh. We're out of here, ladies and gentlemen. Love you all.